Alright, here we go. New video. I'm Poopsmith504. This is my Stormbrand Pathfinder build. Um, Let me explain a couple things. This is a very fun build that I use to farm tier 16 Elder maps. It's very fast, it's very safe, and it clears very well. Um, and basically, we use the Pathfinder Ascendancy to uh, make this build work. What we do is we take Nature's Bloom first, and then we take Nature's Adrenaline, then we take Master Alchemist, then we take Master Surgeon until we get a Corrupting Blood Jewel. And then once we get that, since we don't have to worry about bleed anymore, we could take these two nodes off and go Veteran Bower. Now, what we use Pathfinder for is that we basically have infinite flasks. And the way that we attain that is from Nature's boon, we have 3 charges every 3 seconds and a 20% chance for our flask not to consume charges. We have Master Alchemist, which basically gives us massive defensives. And so it makes us immune to shock, freeze, and ignite, which is insanely good. And it increases the elemental damage we deal during flask effect, along with all these smaller nodes, which gives us flask duration and effect. Um, and then flash charge gained, stuff like that. And then enemies you kill that are affected by elemental ailments grant 100% increased flash charges, because every time you kill an enemy, you get a flash charge back. So this all really, really good. Pathfinder is very good at just sustaining flask forever. Now, even before you get Veteran Bower, you have Master Surgeon, and you gain a flash charge whenever you deal a critical strike. This build is crit based, so you basically have infinite. This is even more ridiculous. This is really good for bosses as well because of that, because you're critting almost every hit, and you're going to be critting 3 times a second because of the skill. So you're getting a ton of charges, and you have infinite flask essentially. I say infinite, but it's essentially infinite. You're just rolling your flask over and over and over again, which is really, really good. And that's what we want in this build. So let's go over notables real quick. Since we're a brand build, we have Runesmith. This one lets us cast an additional brand along with some other good brand benefits, like increased damage to enemies that they're attached to, increased duration and brand activation frequency, and all these smaller nodes do that. And here at Explosive Runes, this allows us to cast an additional brand with a brand attachment range, which is very important for us. That's like a quality of life thing, along with increased damage. Shaman's Domination. This is where we get a ton of crit and crit multi for our brand specifically. This is an insane damage node right here, all 5 of these. That's why we get all 5. This is crit multi, crit strike chance, and damage, crit strike chance, and then this is everything. This is so good. This is such a good node to get. And then we have this one right here. This is our only keystone, Runebinder. Runebinder is insanely good because it allows us to deal double damage essentially on bosses or single target mobs. This also helps us start our chain of explosions because you can attach 2 to one enemy. You don't choose, but it can attach to 2 to one enemy, and then it'll cause the chain explosion to happen. So that's it's very, very good. And that's all the brand nodes that we take. Those are the really the important ones. They really give us a ton of damage with Runebinder, especially. It's really, really, really important. Um, Let me see. Um, so with those, we'll start with Pantheon. So these are the next easiest thing. So we do Soul of Lunaris, and we want to upgrade it all the way because this gives us movement speed and some defenses. So it allows us to not get hit by projectiles that have chained. So that helps us from getting like one shot from off the screen and things like that, along with avoiding projectiles and a bunch of other good defensives. I like Solo Shikari because I hate Caustic Ground. It's really annoying for just farming maps, and it makes us immune to poison, which is also very annoying. Um, so this is just a really good skill to take, and reduce chaos damage taken. Like chaos damage is very strong and relevant for betrayal as well. So this is any help, any little tiny amount helps. If you don't want to do Shikari, I would recommend um, Rakalesh or Ugul, because Ugul allows us to not get frozen or chilled whenever, like, it gives us a 50% chance to reflect, chill, and freezes if we're not rolling our flask. If you're like in a weird situation, it's really frustrating. Like you can just get frozen, but you can just do this, and it makes it way, way, way easier. Um, so that's it for those. That's it for Pantheon. For Bandits, we take Oak, but you're more than welcome to take Alira. Both function similarly. Oak gives us 2 extra slots, which I just fill with a Jewel slot. Um, Alira gives you all res, which is very needed. Mana regen, which is very needed, and crit. And those are all extremely good for us. It's just up to you if you like Alira because it's a quality of life thing, then take it. That's perfectly fine. Um, so now let's get into the skill. So Stormbrand is a skill. It's a it's a spell that you can cast on the ground, and what it does is it places a brand or a rune on the ground, and that rune has an attachment range. And what it does is it will attach itself to an enemy if it falls into that range and pulse for damage. And every time it pulses, it sends 3 beams around that enemy, and including the enemy that it's branded to. So it's an AoE skill that can attach itself and move. And every time it kills something, it will drop itself on the ground where the enemy died and then reattach itself. It creates the range again. Now the duration of it is reduced, um, but it will continuously chain and cascade onward as it goes out, which is really, really, really good for us. Um, it's a lightning spell. Um, and since Runebinder, the node that we took earlier, Runebinder, this allows us to have 2 brands attached to the same enemy. And the way brands work is if you have 2 brands attached to the same enemy, it increases the damage by or it gives it 50% more damage, which is insane. It's very, very good. And this is an ability that cleaves, so it's just ridiculously good. And this is really good for single target too. I really, really, really like this skill. This also scales with cast speed. It's very, very good. Um, so that's the first skill. And then the second main integral skill is Brand Recall. This is another ability that was introduced in 3.5. And this is the ability that goes with brands. And this goes with both Armageddon and Stormbrand. And what it does is it pulls the brands to your character. Um, so that's basically what it does right there. It does this, and it pulls it to your character. And what else it does is it increases the duration of it by 0.12 seconds, which is really good. And that helps. That's like a big quality of life. You might not think it, but you're constantly pressing this button, and it's an instant cast ability. So you don't cast it. You literally just continuously run and don't cast it. Like you don't have a cast animation, so it's instant cast. Um, Now this skill is really unique because it only levels up to level 6, but you can corrupt it for level 7. Um, and with each level, brand recall's power increases incrementally. It's very, very good. It's a very good quality of life gem. Um, and so, with that being said, we want this to be as high level as possible. And so, basically, we're just extending the duration of our DPS skill, and we're pulling it with us because we're moving so fast, and we're moving with the packs that die. And so we do that, and we just pull it to us, and then it'll explode the pack around us. Um, and that's pretty much brand recall. Um, Now, the main function of this is the main reason that we can do what we do is through Queen of the Forest. The reason that we can run so fast and clear very efficiently and fast is because of Queen of the Forest. Now, this skill is very, very. I mean, the item is very good. What it does is it gives us evasion, life, and all in res and a bunch of reses, which is all really good. Um, it gives us movement speed per 600 evasion up to 75%. Now the cap for that is 45,000 evasion, and we get that with just 3 of our flasks. Um, so that being said, let me show you. So we're at 800 or 8,000 right now, and I'm going to activate these 3 flasks. Actually, do I even need to activate that? I just need to activate these 2, to be honest. Yeah. So I activate these 2 flasks, and it puts me at 51,000. That's overcapped, but that's okay. Basically, what happens is at 45,000, it stops giving you increases, and so you just have plus 75% movement speed. And with the Quicksilver Flask, you do this, and our movement speed is 188%, and so we move very fast. And as you can see, I'm literally standing here, and I'm gaining flash charges back because that's just how Pathfinder works. It's very, very, very good. So I'll give you an example. You can just activate those 3, and you just literally are at max movement speed, or I say max movement speed. You can actually go way higher than this, but for me, this is insanely fast. And it's very, very, very good. Um, and so that's how Queen of the Forest works. It's just based off evasion. And with these two flasks, you can pretty much get there. And then this is the benefit. The adrenaline just increases the amount by so much. Um, all right, and so for us to gain damage, we want to in order to like basically cascade out and do massive clears, we do that with a few different things. The first being this weapon. This weapon gives us the ability of Impulsa. Enemies killed explode, dealing 5% of their life as fire damage. That's very, very good. Um, it basically functions similarly to Impulsa, and the Storm Brand will just kill one mob and it'll just cascade because the brands will travel with it because it's still within brand attachment range, and it'll just continuously cascade out. Um, and it'll just chain kill everything. It's very nice. There are times where I activate it and it'll kill multiple screens ahead of me, which is really nice. And you just run through it, pick up the loot, and then you continue onward. It's very, very good. Um, And so this is very good. You want to try to get one like this. You want to try to get a mace, a petrified club specifically because the strength requirement is so low. And it has enemies killed explode, dealing 5% of their life as fire damage. That's very good. I haven't multi-modded because I wanted to get the mod, specifically the Arcane Surge, when you kill an enemy, because Stormbrand scales very well with cast speed because it increases the amount of times it pulses per second. And it's very, very good. That's just like almost a more modifier for it. But these are some mods to look at if you are going to multi-mod the mace. It's really not expensive to do this. Um, you can even settle for a mace that's not multi-modded, where you can craft stuff on, and you can just, if you can craft one suffix, I would just craft the Arcane Surge because it's a big quality of life thing. Because you basically double down on cast speed, and it increases the damage. It's a more spell damage modifier as well, and it gives you mana regen, so it's incredibly good. It's just an overall good mod. Um, and so you can get a cheap one with one open suffix for probably like 10C. Um, and that's basically all you need for this because its function is to explode and chain kill everything. That's essentially what it is. I was able to multi-mod it and then go from there, and that's what's really interesting. Um, and that's basically the main weapon that you want to get. That's like your first thing that you should get besides Queen of the Forest. I think that is one of the most integral parts of this if you're starting out and you want to begin pushing forward. The next thing is your offhand weapon. See, I'm dual wielding, but there are much cheaper options than that. You have a bunch of shield options, and those shields can vary from rares to uniques. Um, so let's start with the uniques. You have these two items, which are one of them. You get this one from the unique map Moon Temple, or Twilight Temple, sorry, which is the Fire and Ice Temple, or unique map. And what this does is it gives it +2 level to socketed gems, along with health and cannot be frozen and a bunch of other stuff. But cannot be frozen doesn't really matter for us because we can't be frozen anyway, because we're a Pathfinder and whenever we have a flask, we can't be frozen. This also gives us cold Aegis. There's a cold Aegis, a fire Aegis, and then for the combined shield, we have this, which gives us elemental Aegis, which is just any damage at all. And this also gives us evasion and health and the +2 level of socketed gems. Shields can roll +1 to socketed gems as well, so this can be pushed way further. And the reason that this is important is because of brand recall. Brand recall, like I said earlier, scales very well with levels, and this shield really pushes that to its limit. The highest level that you can get brand recall is level 16, I believe, level 16. Um, and that's really important because the cooldown becomes 1.2 seconds, which is you can if you can spam it and you're constant with it, you can keep Stormbrand up infinitely throughout an entire map, which is very, very, very important. Um, but that's just like a quality of life thing. That lowers your damage by a decent amount. And then even then, buying these can get really expensive in the beginning of a league. Like these were probably like 25C in the beginning of a league, which is pretty expensive considering that it's really cheap now. But you can, like I said, you can corrupt these. So for a +1, which is insane, it's very good. Now you have these rare shields, which are very cheap, probably like 5C or so, 5 to 10C, and you can get them with a decent life roll and some decent resistances if you're lacking that, with crit strike chance to spells, because that's very important for us. We want to get as much crit as possible. Um, Shield has a pretty interesting roll or craft that you can get, which is the non-chaos damage as extra chaos, and that helps a lot. Um, so that's it for shields, really. These are the cheap options, like I said. Now the expensive option that you can choose for dual wielding, this just increases your damage completely and makes it so it's way easier to just chain explode stuff. Um, it's very expensive to get though, is a dagger like this, or a mace that has pen if you don't need the crit. I personally needed the crit, so I got this dagger, which gives us global crit implicitly. Damage penetrates 10% elemental resistance, um, a elemental damage as extra chaos damage, so we just get more damage. And then I multi-modded it for more of that elemental damage or non-chaos damage as extra chaos damage, crit, and spell damage. It's just this dagger is increased my damage by so much. It almost doubled it basically. But this was like a very end game thing to get. This was I believe about 6.4 exalts. So that's this is high end. I would, if obviously if you don't have the money for that or you're just starting off, I would just go with a shield or any of these three shields. These are perfectly fine. You'll clear just as well. And yeah, that's it for the weapons basically. So let's go through uniques. There are a few uniques that are, I would say, that are mandatory, that are required. The first being Queen of the Forest, of course, because that's how the build functions. The second being Essence Worm. This allows us to have an extra aura for free that is buffed. And so what this does is we get a Wrath that is +2, and if you get a Wrath that's corrupted to 21, so it's 23, you just get more damage. It's just so insanely good. It's very good. I obviously don't. I need to probably do that. But this is it's fairly. I don't want to say it's fairly expensive because it is. A 2120 Wrath is probably like an X still. But this is perfectly fine if you can just stick with a 20 Wrath. Um, and you can self farm your owns as well. You just level jewel gems passively as you play the game. But this is the reason you use Essence Worm. It's very very good because this makes it cost no mana to reserve, but it increases the cost of other auras, which is perfectly fine for us. That's fine. We find ways to deal with that. Um, and then the second mandatory unique is Shadows and Dust. Since we're a map clearer, we want to be able to get Rampage. Rampage is a very big thing because it increases movement speed. It's pretty defensive because it can stun mobs. It does Corpse Explosion, so we don't get killed by box Corpse Explosion or other mobs that can do that. And it also gives us a Smoke Cloud, which is pretty nice, but we already do that. And more Smoke Clouds, it doesn't hurt, along with Global Crit Strike Chance and Crit Multi, which is what we need. It doesn't give health, unfortunately, but Rampage is really good. And then the third required unique is Vinktar, Vessel of Vinktar. This is from the unique map from a unique map. I actually forget the name of it. Vinktar Square, of course. And we want to get one that has the lightning damage to spells during flask effect. And this just increases our damage some more. And the downside of this flask is that we get shocked, but we don't because we're a Pathfinder because of this node from before, from this one, Master Alchemist. There is no downside to using Vessel of Vinktar, actually, since we're a Pathfinder. So this is actually just an insanely good flask for us because it gives us more damage. It shocks everyone around us, and it gives us our only form of leech, of life leech. All lightning damage, or 20% of lightning damage we deal is leeched while we have this flask up, which is very, very good. It is literally a huge quality of life thing, and these are really cheap right now too. Um, like I said, we're about a month into the league, so it's about 5C for these. For a perfectly rolled one, I'm sure it's a little bit more, but it's like mine's really close. I got this for about 10C, so earlier in the league, so it's really not that bad. And those are like the mandatory uniques, um, and it's really not. Those aren't really, those aren't really expensive. Shadows and Dust is like an alchemy if that. Essence Firm can get kind of expensive early on, but it drops down very quickly. And then Vinctar is generally pretty cheap. Um, and the longer the league goes on, the easier it is to get. Um, Now let's go to our rares. Um, Basically, we have only 4 rares, 5 if you include helmet. I have this helmet on because it is a mapping helmet. This is the Gull. You don't need to get this enchant on it. It's actually very hard to find someone with this enchant specifically on the Gull. The Gull is only for map clear. I wouldn't even say that this is mandatory. This is just for me. I find this to be really fun. This also gives health. Shrines are really cool, and you can run domination without feeling really bad about it. You get an acceleration shrine on the map, and you activate it with the Gull. It feels like you literally run insanely fast. It's so ridiculous. It's fun. This is just very enjoyable to use, and they're very cheap. This is another like alch item, like 1 alch item. Um, so that's pretty cool. But this is the only other unique. This can be replaced with a rare or a Starkonjas, which can be really cheap, or Devotos if you have some money. Devotos is really good. Starkonjas gives us global crit, dex, and life, along with a lot of evasion. This is pretty defensive as well. It reduces damage while we're on low life, which can happen. With any build, it can happen. But like this is just it's this item is actually incredibly good. Um, so yeah, let's go back to the rares. I have a rare Abyssal belt or Stygian belt, Stygian Vice. This is good because we want the Abyssal socket, and you can get cheap ones like this. This is probably 10C, 5C now. It has 2 really good reses with a mediocre life, and I needed stats at the time, so I got it with strength. And Abyssal jewels are just incredibly useful. For boots, I got it with strength because I needed strength requirement. With some res, this is 2-tone boots, so it came with res anyway, and I wanted 30% movement speed, and I just crafted life on it. These can be pretty cheap. It's not really too difficult to find these. I say find them, but to search for them. And in the guide that I have, it explains how to do that, and I have links for pretty much everything. This is a ring with conductivity on hit. This is a quality of life ring. Basically, I wanted to get this because I needed a curse slot to fill because everyone can cast at least 1 curse. And this is just an easy way to do it without wasting a slot in my necklace or amulet. Um, and I didn't really need to worry about res. I just crafted res on this and it was fine. And this also gave me crit and health. Conductivity is very good because what conductivity does is it reduces the resistances of enemies that you hit, the lightning resistances of enemies you hit, which is insanely good. And this is the rare necklace that I have, or amulet. Um, and I have Aspect of the Spider on it, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But basically, you want to try to get a necklace that gives you health and resistances. It doesn't have to be all res. You just want health and resistances first, and then look for global crit later because like I said, we are crit based. Um, and so, with that, the alternate to this necklace is these 2 uniques in presence. This is really cheap. In presence allows us to cast conductivity for free with 100% reduced mana reservation. I don't want to say that's free because with Essence Worm it's actually 14% mana res. But this also gives us like a little bit. This is like a very good entry into it. If you can't get the conductivity on hit ring, this is really good because you get to socket a blasphemy conductivity, and that can be more effective than having the conductivity ring because it's going to be kind of hard to find those. Um, this is, like I said, this is super cheap too. This also gives us life and res and all stats, which is what we need sometimes. Maddening Presence is really cool. Maddening Presence allows whenever you kill a rare, it has an aura around you, and what the aura does is it slows movement speed and cast speed of everything around you. So it's kind of nice quality of life. This is the other option. This is a more damage heavy option. This gives us more crit based on our lightning res, and it makes lightning bolt happen whenever you deal a crit. So basically, what can happen is lightning bolt can actually proc your heralds and your mace explosion because it hits so hard, and it's very good. Um, So this is also another good option, but this is a little bit more pricey. This is like 40 or 50C. I mean, at the beginning of the league, I'm sure it's actually like an X or two, because this is only from the Esh Breach, and this is the upgraded version of an Esh item that can drop. Um, so yeah, that's it for the uniques generally. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, let's go over Helm Enchant. So Stormbrand has a pretty good Helm Enchant. Stormbrand penetrates 12% of branded enemies' lightning resistance. So it's just an extra 12% pen. Um, this can get really expensive on like good items. On Starks, it was really cheap this league. It was like 40C ish. I have one on the Gull. It's 8% instead of 12, but there's only been two with 12% on the Gull, which is really unfortunate. And both people weren't selling them. They just had them up for some reason. So I wasn't able to get that, and so I'll just settle for this really. Um, but yeah, Stormbrand's incredible. This enchant is actually really incredible because it allows us to get even more pen because we have conductivity, and our weapon gives it to us, and we have an ascendancy node, the veteran bower. So we have a ton of damage pen um, for Stormbrand, and so for that helps us a lot with syndicate members and things like that. It's very 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 good. All right, let's go to the links now. Let me put all these away. So with the gem links, you have a couple options actually. For the 6 link, it's going to be really hard for you to get 5 blue, 1 green, or 6 blue on a Queen of the Forest because it is dex based. It will cost you a lot of money to do that, or near impossible because there are almost none. Um, Luckily, this league for Betrayal, you can actually put white sockets on items, and so the link that we have for Stormbrand, um, if you're starting out, I would suggest doing this a 4 blue, 2 green. It's Stormbrand, Power Charge on critical strike support, Concentrated Effect, Increased Crit, Hypothermia, added cold damage. That's a good starter, 6 link. Um, and even if you only have a 5 link and you have like 4 blue, 1 green, I would take Hypothermia out and just put added cold damage because that'll just force you to shatter. And that's what you want. You want to shatter. Now, if you can get a 5 blue, 1 green, or 6 blue, I would put Controlled Destruction in. So Stormbrand, Power Charge on crit, Conk effect, increased crit, Controlled Destruction, added cold damage for 5 blue, 1 green. And if you didn't have the green, if it was 6 blue, I would probably put Faster Casting in, as this scales incredibly well with Stormbrand. Like it's an insane thing because I have enough cold damage passively to shatter, so it's not that big a deal for me. And that would just adding this would just increase my damage way more than added cold damage would be, or would be doing. So that's the main link. The next link would be brand recall. So we have brand recall, empower support, and enhance. And so what this does is brand recall 7 at base, empower support. This is a level 3. I didn't get a level 4 because it's rare. Um, and same with enhance. Level 3 increases the level of active support, active skills. So this is a level 9 with this socketed, this link to it. And then what enhance does is it increases the quality. And quality does a lot for this. Quality increases the brand attachment range. So that is just a huge quality of life thing. So this is 60% cooldown reduction and then 69% increase attachment range. So with this, it makes it so it's 77% increase attachment range because it's level 9 and 80% cooldown reduction. With enhance, it goes to 93% increase attachment range. And so that's just +2. Um, if I have it in the shield, it goes up dramatically. Like I said, level 16, I think is the highest that you can get with an Empower 4 with a +3 shield. A shield that has +1 corruption and a +2 regular. So it makes it so it's really, really good. And that's the basic link for this. If you don't want to use Enhance, you can use Arcane Surge if you can't get it on your weapon. If you wanted to forego this and put just like cast speed or something on it, you can do another link with Brand Recall, Empower, and then Arcane Surge, and that would be okay. Um, the next link I want to explain is the Herald of Ice. Herald of Ice, I have it in my helmet. It doesn't, as long as it can fit somewhere, it doesn't really matter where you put it. It's a 4 link. Herald of Ice reserves a lot of mana for us because we have it linked to supports, to very big supports, and it's Innervate and Ice Bite. Innervate whenever you uh, whenever you kill a shocked enemy, you gain lightning damage. And while you have this buff, you have an increased chance to shock, and your supported skill has increased lightning damage. So you double down on lightning damage, and you increase the duration of shock, which is insanely good. Um, so that just gives us more lightning damage, which is really good, and it increases the chance to shock. Um, and shock is a debuff that increases damage. It's just very good. Then you have Ice Bite support, which increases the chance to freeze. It gives skills more cold damage, and whenever you kill something that's frozen, you have a 69% chance to gain a frenzy charge, which is really good. That's our only way to get frenzy charges. And per frenzy charge, we have more damage, more cold damage per, which is awesome. So this is really good. This gives us our frenzy charges, and frenzy charges just gives us more damage. But in order to cast this and use this with Essence Worm and our third aura, we have to put an Enlighten 3 in it. Otherwise, it won't work. We won't have any mana, or it just won't be able to be reserved. Um, and now the third aura, when you're first starting off, I recommend using Herald of Thunder because it is much, much cheaper than getting Aspect of the Spider. Herald of Thunder just adds more damage for us. Yeah, that's pretty much all it does. It's another Herald, another on-kill effect that'll just do damage in an area around us, um, along with giving more lightning damage to spells, which is really good. Um, but once you can afford it, I would recommend switching from Herald of Thunder to Aspect of the Spider. What Aspect of the Spider does is it, whenever enemies come around you, you periodically put spider webs on them. And each spider web, you can do it 3 times to an enemy. Each spider web increases the damage that they take and reduces their movement speed by 30 per. So up to all enemies around you have 90% movement reduction and 15% increased damage taken. This is just a really defensive option, and it gives us about the same amount of damage as Herald of Thunder, which is really good. So it's like a really good defensive option, and it gives us the same amount of damage as the Herald would give. And so end game you want this, but starting off you want to do Herald of Thunder, and that's fine. The next thing is the our boss killer ability, because we kind of issues killing bosses fast. And it is going to be Vol Stormcall, and this is a 4 link, and we want Vol Stormcall to be linked with less duration, Lightning Pen, and Conk Effect. Now this is all really good for us because this is going to crit anyway because we have such high crit, and it's going to shock, and it's going to have 37% Lightning Pen on top of every other thing that we have. We have Conductivity, which is I think 5 is around 22%, and then 10% passively, and then 10% here. So like this is like what was it? It was 37 plus 10, so 47 plus another 10, 57 plus 22, which is 79% Lightning Pen on an ability that hits incredibly fast and incredibly hard. And this also scales very well. Basically, this will kill all the betrayal mobs for you, or the rare betrayal mobs that come out. And then Stormwind does a good job of them because they'll usually come out in packs of like 2+. But if it is only one, you just activate Vol Stormcall and it'll just kill it for you because Stormcall just does so much damage. It is such a strong ability. And that is our boss killer ability, or hard mob killer ability. And then the defensive link we have is Immortal Call, cast on damage taken. So we have Immortal Call, cast on damage taken, both level 1, and then increased duration. This is really good because this just makes us not get one shot. We take 1 fizz damage, and then it activates, or not 1, but what is it? We take 528 damage, and it triggers Immortal Call, which makes us immortal for 0.66 seconds. That's what the tooltip says. Yeah, 0.66 seconds, which is good because that means we're not going to die instantly, and I can move because we're moving so fast. So I don't get one shot by just like random stuff, which is what we need. And then we have the 2/1 links. We have Wrath and Essence Worm, which I explained earlier because we want Wrath to be free. This just gives us more damage. And then we have Righteous Fire. Righteous Fire just gives us 39% more damage. We don't want to activate Righteous Fire. We want to activate Vol Righteous Fire. So basically, we only want this to happen when we are fighting bosses. We have Vol Stormcall and Vol Righteous Fire. Vol Righteous Fire is an instant cast ability, so you can cast it while you're casting other stuff. Literally, you can cast Fall, you can cast Storm Call and Righteous Heart at the same time. That's just how that works. And like I said, this gives us 39% more damage. This is amazing. Um, and that's it for gems. That's actually pretty much it for the video. Um, but yeah, you can catch me on Twitch. And I have a guide out on the forums. Hopefully, this is where you're coming from. If not, you should go check it out. It's pretty robust. It explains everything that in this video, and it gives you some examples of some clear that I did on Elder Cells and Tower. But yeah, that's basically it. Thanks.